Hey and welcome back to the Roadshow YouTube channel, and today we are going to be talking about the Japanese Grand Prix. A nice little preview, nice little warm up, little things that you may need to know going into the weekend, and some other little key facts and details. But first of all, before I get into the video, as always, like this video, subscribe for more stuff like this. I've got tons of stuff like this coming up, so make sure you are subscribed for all of that. Now, Suzuka is one of those tracks that is so popular amongst the Formula One paddock. It's such a nice twisty and flowing circuit, almost like a roller coaster sort circuit, and it's one of those that the drivers love going to every year. And it's not only just the circuit that everyone loves going to Japan. It's such a different type, a different part of the world to where everywhere else. The food, the people, and everything like that, it just makes such a great weekend. The fans are always great. First of all, I want to talk about the schedule for this weekend. Of course, I'm talking about British time. The qualifying will be on at 7 o'clock in the morning, so rise and shine really early. But of course, Sunday's Grand Prix will be at 6 a.m, so even earlier. So it's one of those early ones as well. But if you're Australian, if you're from Asia, you're like, yep, get up, normal time, 2 o'clock, perfect. So I guess what you've been suffering from all season, we're having to suffer from now. And the free practice sessions are on between half three to half four. That's FP1. FP2 is on at 7 o'clock, and FP3 is on at 3:30 in the morning to 4:30. So as I said, it's an early one. It's one I'm actually quite excited for. I am always excited for Suzuka, not just because of the circuit and the great racing and the great moments we've had there in the past, but also it's getting up that early and watching the race. It's just something special about that Grand Prix, having to get up for it. Now, I want to talk about the weather across the weekend. It is expected to be dry across the weekend. There may be some spots of rain on the Friday, but that is a real slight chance. But do expect it to be a dry and sunny race weekend, around about 28 degrees highest temperature in Japan. So it's going to be a really hot one. So now let's highlight some key characteristics about the circuit. Of course, we can look at Sector 1, the nice flowing bit of Sector 1. It's probably the best sector in Formula 1. It's just incredible to see the cars go around at the incredible speeds that they do. And it's such a difficult set of corners to get right, because they all flow and lead to each other, and it just sets you up for the rest of the lap as the track just flows and flows and just complements each other. You then have the spoon corner, which is a difficult one to get right. It's really slow in, and it's really kind of hard to get on the throttle. You want to get on the throttle earlier than what you actually have to, and the curves can be so nasty. You've got the gravel traps on the outside as well, and you don't want to get onto them, and that obviously sets you up going onto 130R. That corner is just flat. It's not even a corner anymore with these Formula 1 cars, how fast they can take them. And of course, then we have the chicanes. Really high curbing is really easy to get on top of them and damage the underside of the floor. But it's such a nice quick change, and it just sets you up onto the straight. And as you can tell, the circuit is just a really nice flowing circuit, and it's a difficult one to get right, but when you do nail it, it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to put some stats up on the screen, just some key facts about the circuit. So of course, we had our first race here in 1987, such a long time ago now, and it's a mainstay on the Formula 1 calendar. We can't have a season without Suzuka. Of course, we didn't have it, unfortunately, when we had the COVID era, which was unfortunate, because it would have been nice to see that W11, for example, go around Suzuka. It would have been beautiful. I think they actually need to do some of that, do some little track event around Suzuka and get that W11 going around that circuit. Even if it's not Lewis or Valtteri in that car, even if you put Esteban or someone like that, I think we do need to see that car going around that circuit, because that would have looked absolutely beautiful, especially going through the first sector. It would have looked amazing, and it's so unfortunate that the COVID did happen and these little moments that we did miss. The circuit layout is 5.8 kilometers, and we go around it for 53 times, and it takes up 307.471 kilometers. In qualifying, Sebastian Vettel has the lap record in 2019 for 1:27.064, And the race lap record, of course, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019 was a 1:39.83. So as you can tell, we're going to be in one about the 1:30s. One of the slower lap times across the season. Of course, we have a lot of quick circuits now with that's Austria, for example, which we can do that in around about a minute. Now this circuit is more to do with medium to high speed corners. Of course there's a few low speed corners, and the top speed around here is around about 328 kilometers per hour. A lot of speed can be picked up here. And the tyre compounds for this weekend is C1, C2 and C3. Of course the lower range of tyres. Now let's get on to last year's Grand Prix. Of course it was raining from the start. We had a wet start. And of course we had that 2-hour delay. Of course Sainz having a spin, Gasly having a moment, Vettel also having a moment, Albon retiring. A lot of key incidents happened at the start of the race. Of course we had that tractor on the track, which is absolutely insane to think about a particular moment with Jules Bianchi and that kind of flashbacks of that moment with the tractor on the circuit. So that was quite insane to think, and obviously Gasly and quite a lot of the drivers were quite vocal about that, and it was a massive mistake. So the race got underway, everyone was on the full wet tyres, but some did gamble at the start. Latifi and Vettel went in straight away to put on the intermediate tyres, and they really did benefit, didn't they? Because Sebastian Vettel ended the race finishing in 6th place and Latifi finished in 9th place, so it massively benefited. And we just saw a lot of drivers going in really early to get off those wet tyres, because those wet tyres, they give you a good start because they really heat up really well, but then they just overheat to the point where they're just undrivable, and the inters are just much more cooler. The inters are just better race tyre than the wet tyres. You're able just to manage the tyre temps in the tyres much better in those inters. But there was just so much pace on those inters. And of course, Zhou and Schumacher stayed out. And of course, for them, it's probably worth the gamble for them to stay out. But in the end, it didn't really work out. Of course, Schumacher defended really hard to keep his place. Remember with his battle with Lewis last year, defending really well, and Lewis couldn't get ahead of Ocon, and that really compromised his race. And in the end, Ocon had a really good race, finishing in P4, another good performance from Ocon, but obviously Hamilton did struggle to get past. Russell had a great drive as well, coming through the field as those intermediate tyres, as he was one of the first ones to commit to those intermediate tyres. Checo and Leclerc battle on the last lap. Leclerc giving Checo a little bit of a squeeze coming into the last corner, and of course in that race, Max Verstappen was crowned as 2-time world champion, and congratulations to him still. So I'll go through the race results. So we had Verstappen in first, Leclerc in second, P3 was Checo Perez, P4 was Ocon, P5 was Lewis Hamilton, P6 was Sebastian Vettel, P7 was Fernando Alonso, P8 was George Russell, P9 was Nicholas Latifi, and running off the top 10 was, of course, Lando Norris. So let's have a look at the winners here. So obviously, Michael Schumacher holds the record around here with 6 race victories. Lewis Hamilton coming in second in the all-time list with 5, and Sebastian Vettel coming in with 4 race victories. So let's think back to some historical moments at this circuit. Of course, we have to talk about first that Kimi Raikkonen drive in 2005, starting all the way from the back with the whole quality situation with the rain coming down, and that could have made a really good race. Obviously Fernando and Schumacher all got impacted as well, and he just had to soar through the field and basically won the race on the last lap, which was an amazing race, probably one of the best races of all time, and a proof to why Kimi was such a great driver in Formula 1. Of course, Damien Hill won the championship in 96 here at Japan. Mansell's crash at Japan as well in 87, which lost him the world title because he couldn't compete in the Grand Prix, as the doctors deemed he wasn't ready to race and he wasn't safe enough for him to race, and of course lost the championship to Nelson Piquet. Of course, we had that battle between Prost and Senna for the title in 89 and 90, of course ending in so much controversy, as basically in 1990 Senna basically takes Alain Prost out, and well, Senna wins the championship. And in 89 they're coming towards the chicane towards the end of the lap at Japan, and basically Prost effectively takes Senna out. Senna then continues, he gets disqualified. that situation is so complicated. There was so much corruption with that, with the French president at the time running Formula One. And wow, what a time. And I want to end it on a bit of a sad note, unfortunately, but of course the death of Jules Bianchi was effectively here in 2014. Of course, the tractor on track retrieving Adrian Sutil's car, and then Jules Bianchi unfortunately had a fatal accident which eventually led to his death. So of course, rest in peace to Jules Bianchi. What a driver he was going to be, a part of that Ferrari academy, and it was so unfortunate for him to be lost at Suzuka. So of course, this weekend we'll continue to remember Jules Bianchi and what a great driver he could have been, and of course what a great man he also was as well. So now let's get into the 2023 race. What is it going to look like? I think we'll see Red Bull dominate. The track just suits their car to a T. The high and medium speed corners is just perfect for their car. Max loves this circuit as well, and Max will be absolutely flying. And I expect him to be on the pole, and I expect him to be on the top step of the podium come Sunday. And I think kind of coming in second place, I would say behind Red Bull, I think it will probably be McLaren with their new upgrades. Should be really effective here in Suzuka. And of course, Piastri is going to have the upgrades full package as well alongside Norris. So expect Piastri to be really quick this weekend. Of course, Piastri's had a really great start to the season and midway through the season as well, especially with the performances in Hungary, Silverstone and Belgium. And so expect Oscar Piastri to be back here in Japan. And I expect Mercedes to be not too far behind the McLarens. Lewis and George, such strong drivers, and they will get the maximum out of that car. Mercedes car is quite unpredictable, but with the high speed, medium speed corners, I think they should do really well. Of course, their tyre wear is pretty decent and going into the race, so I do expect them to be better in the race. And of course in the tyre with such a high downforce circuit with the high speed corners, medium speed corners, do expect Mercedes to be strong in the race. Of course, don't count out Ferrari. Their power unit is strong, so down the straights are going to be really strong, but of course in the high medium speed corners they may struggle a little bit. I think in qualifying we could see some good maybe performances from Ferrari. Of course they do burn the tyres really well, and expect them to have a good qualifying, but to slip away in the race. So here's my predictions for the Japanese Grand Prix. So I have Max Verstappen on the pole, I have Norris in second place, and I have Piastri in third place. I think the McLarens will be really strong here, and I think they will do really well in qualifying. But in the race, however, it's going to be the same. Max Verstappen winning the race. It just suits Max Verstappen so well. He loves the circuit. The car's going to do well, and he will absolutely fly this weekend. And it could be another case of him winning by 20 seconds. But I don't think the McLarens are going to be too far off him in qualifying. But that Red Bull in clean air is just going to be so good in the hands of Max Verstappen, and it's going to be really hard to stop him. And in P2, I do have Sergio Perez finishing on the podium in P2. I think it'd be a bit way off. Verstappen is going to have to fight his way through a little bit, but I do think that car in Checo should have enough pace for him to get into second. Maybe a bit of strategy, a little bit of overtaking. Of course, I haven't gotten him starting in the top three. And I have Lando Norris finishing on the podium as well. I think McLaren will just have the edge over Mercedes. And I think with that qualifying pace and it not being that easy to overtake around Suzuka, I think McLaren will really benefit from that. So well then, that is all I have for the Japanese Grand Prix preview. Of course, I could have all this information wrong about who I think will be towards the top. But who do you guys think will be there or thereabouts? Do you think Red Bull will slip back a little bit, or do you reckon they'll be back on their A game? Who do you think is going to win the battle between McLaren and Mercedes? And do you think Ferrari will be back in the frame? I don't expect Aston Martin to be back in the frame. I think they've really slipped off. And I think Ferrari will claim P3, maybe P2 in the championship. In the Constructors' Championship. So that's going to be really exciting to see. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this, there's going to be a little more previews coming up with qualifying and the race coming up. So do stay tuned for that. Make sure you do like this video, subscribe for more stuff like this, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care and peace.